Good afternoon. My name's Conklin McLeod with a special NBN News Bulletin. Today, former coal miner and Olympic shooter Dan Rapopoli claims victory in the seat of Hunter. While Barnaby Joyce secures the Nationals seat for the New England, and Mel Swansea secures the Labor seat for Patterson. We began this afternoon with good news about former coal miner and Olympic shooter Dan Rapopoli. Last night, he claimed victory in the seat of Hunter. The 40-year-old Labor candidate walked through a crowd of cheering Labor volunteers at Cessnock Leagues Club before thanking his family, his supporters, and the voting public. After that, a wheelie bin was brought in to Dan's after party in the Hunter as Labor celebrates the end of Scott Morrison's leadership. Meanwhile, on the Central Coast, Dr. Gordon Reid also claimed victory. But of course, it was in the seat of Robertson. Meanwhile, up the New England Northwest, Barnaby Joyce has got the national seat, while Emma McBride has got the Labor's Dobell, and of course Mel Swansea has got her Labor's Patterson seat, and Kevin Hogan has got his Page seat. Anthony Albanese is, of course, our next Prime Minister. He's the 31st one, with Labor returning to power for the first time in nearly 9 years.
Fellow Australians,
Anthony Albanese is now our new Prime Minister. He's the 31st one, and also Labor has also won for the first time in 9 years. But also, Albanese always wants everyone to calm down, but also settle down as well.
Down. No. Can we have order, please? Can we have a bit of order?
As well as a bit of order as well.
I intend to run an orderly government, and it starts here, so behave.
Meanwhile, a colourful convoy of more than 100 cars returned to Newcastle yesterday after spending the past week touring regional New South Wales.
Loud and proud, the happiest of convoys, honks, parades and colours up the Newcastle foreshore. Old rigs dolled up to the nines, some even bringing their heroes on board with them.
The cars are one thing, but it's their costumes and their themes that make such a difference.
This crew from Scone greeted by loved ones at the finish line after a week of bush bashing.
1984 XF Falcon, fastest car in the bash.
More happy reunions for the old-time NRL squad.
Our car raised $25,000 for our car alone, and our team of cars, which is Nostalgic NRL, raised about $100,000 to go to Variety.
These are the heartwarming efforts of the 2022 Variety Bash crew. 100 cars entering and travelling from Newcastle to Dubbo, Cobar, Wagga and Bathurst, stopping in at rural schools including Ballamore to deliver much-needed supplies.
The 12 kids arrived on the school bus, and lining their fence was the Avengers, Captain America, Shrek.
Doesn't matter if there's 2 kids or 20 kids or 200 kids, every kid gets that opportunity.
This bash is, of course, all about the kids, which means there are some very special people in attendance, some travelling from infinity and beyond to say hello. Isn't that right, Buzz? The convoy raising more than $1 million, the cash helping Variety, the children's charity, to support kids who are sick, disadvantaged or living with a disability.
We like to give every child a chance to be exactly who they want to be.
Isabella Evans, NBN News.
Meanwhile, on the mid-north coast, dozens of people worked to try save a whale shark on Safety Beach near Wagulga, north of Coffs Harbour this morning. The whale shark beached itself twice, once at 7 a.m, where rescuers were successful in releasing it. We'll have one more election story coming up after the break, as Pat Conroy wins the state of Shortland for Labor. Labor has retained the seat of Shortland and reversed a swing it suffered in 2019. With 64% of the vote counted, Labor's Pat Conroy held 55.4% of the two-party preferred vote into his victorious speech.
Only Labor will protect, and we've got to rebuild trust.
Pat Conroy is one of our best locals, and of course, during last night's victorious speech into his seat of Shortland, he of course became huge by saying this, by thanking his volunteers.
Of the 5% swing against us. And since then, all of you in this room have helped turn Shortland into a great marginal seat campaigning team. If you look at the stats, we've mobilised over 100 volunteers. We've phone banked north of 21,000 homes in our community. We've door knocked over 2,000 people, despite COVID, meaning that we couldn't start door knocking to February this year. And in fact, when I talk to the sort of
Since then, Conroy has made a lot of friendly people across Shortland in the Hunter Valley. During his victorious speech that occurred last night.
I want to thank you very much. And on that, I want to...
It was also a huge win for Pat Conroy, whose victorious speech, of course, made the locals of Shortland more happier.
And we've attracted a whole swathe of new volunteers to the movement. And I don't want to single them out.
Conroy held 55.4% of the two-party preferred vote last night to win.
We've been able to bring so many new people into the party, and hopefully they'll join branches. And as importantly, hopefully they'll see fit to help Yasmin and Jody get re-elected next year and us winning Lake Macquarie. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to...
Your local sport for Newcastle and the Hunters coming up after the break, as the Newcastle North Stars secure their unbeaten run over the Sydney Ice Dogs in the Australian Ice Hockey League. To ice hockey, the Newcastle North Stars' unbeaten winning streak has continued thanks to an 8-2 win over the Sydney Ice Dogs in Sydney yesterday afternoon. Meanwhile, the North Stars will take on the Ice Dogs again up at the Hunter Ice Skating Stadium later this afternoon. to the NSWRL's New South Wales Cup, and the Newcastle Knights have continued their winning streak, defeating the St George Illawarra Dragons 27-20. It was fantastic for the Knights, who were too strong for their rivals. Well, there's something that if you need, it's of course a game. But what you need to turn down is of course music because of copyright. And thankfully the Knights scored the first try. Right up in the first, then the Dragons threatened to do it. But the Knights were just too strong for their rivals. And of course Newcastle were just too good. And of course, kicking plenty of... They had to kick a lot of them. Scoring tries. As well as doing a whole lot of them as well. But once the Knights threw the ball to their teammates, there was no stopping them, as their tries still went onto the good side of life. The Dragons threatened to fight back, but it wasn't to be. Thankfully, Newcastle quickly scored a field goal. Up to the ladder, and of course the Knights have moved to 8th position onto the NSWRL ladder. And of course they joined the Penrith Panthers, the Newtown Jets, the Canberra Bankstown Bulldogs, the North Sydney Bears, the Parramatta Eels, South Sydney Rabbitohs, and of course the Canberra Raiders as well. Still on the Knights, and of course their women's premiership side also secured a win, taking down the Saints 34 points to 12. After the break, Maitland all but ends South Newcastle's winning streak in the Newcastle Rugby League. To Newcastle Rugby League, and the Maitland Pickers have ended South Newcastle's winning streak, beating them 38 points to 10. It was just massive for Maitland, with the Pickers too strong for the Lions. It was a huge one for the Maitland Pickers. First, they had a penalty, as well as a try, then a shot at goal. Then their amount of success continued. They ended up scoring. And of course, the scores ended up continuing, and South Newcastle had to quickly try to break their drought. South Newcastle only had 4 points, while Maitland, however, returned to their winning streak. But despite the election still going on despite the local election finishing right off in Newcastle and the Hunter, it was just exciting for local rugby league. And of course, Maitland had an unstoppable lead. They were now leading 28-4. Maitland was just too good. The Pickers scored one of the best tries, and they kicked more goals. And of course, South Newcastle failed to capitalise until the very last couple of seconds, right into the final few minutes of full time. By the time it was 38-10, it was too late for Souths, with Souths having their first loss of Newcastle Rugby League. Then, the match between the Macquarie Scorpions and the Wyong Roos came on, as the Scorpions went up to the Central Coast to face off against their rivals. Macquarie led 2-0. Then, Wyong ended up scoring first. But of course, the game continued. Thankfully, the Scorpions had revenge onto their Central Coast rivals to quickly beat them up. And also, they were getting them all fired up as well. Then, both the first and second half were of course huge. Wyong were leading 10-6 when Macquarie fought back. The Scorpions were unstoppable right throughout the game, and quickly having a goal to lead 12-10. Then Macquarie scored the match-winning try to quickly win the match. By the time Wyong had the chance to quickly score another try, and by the time it had wrapped up full time, 18-16, it was all too late for Wyong.
I've got grounding. Yeah, I've got grounding. Right
there. As Wyong tried to do everything that they could, it just wasn't enough for Wyong to secure a win. Macquarie secured an 18-16 win. In round 5 of the Hunter Rugby Union competition, Singleton defeated Lake Macquarie, while the match between Merewether Carlton and the Southern Beaches was called off due to wet weather. Meanwhile, Nelson Bay secured a huge win over the University of Newcastle, and Maitland all but ended the Hamilton Hawks' undefeated winning streak to defeat them 27-12. With plenty of games in the Hunter Rugby competition occurring, of course, it all started yesterday, and of course, the only match that was called off was the one against Merewether Carlton. But thankfully, the one against Nelson Bay and University of Newcastle started very well.
Positions filled by the university and the team of the week last week as Cole moves in and sweet as you please.
University had the points.
They go to 2. They had the plan to roll it on, but both sacked it straight away. Havia through the middle on the charge, and he's gone straight through the middle of the Nelson Bay forwards there, and he's gone over in the corner, not caked in mud like it was at Nelson.
Now, University were leading 8-0 against Nelson Bay, and of course, now University had a penalty goal, 10-0, and also Nelson Bay had a good chance to score. And of course, Nelson Bay scored just in time. And of course, but however, Nelson Bay knocked it on. And of course, they were forced to take the 2. University had 3 points, University 10. Now the second half came above.
I know the forwards don't want to give this to the backs and they want the glory of this, mate, but it'll be pretty hard to stop. Oh, that's a big, that's a long ball from Charlie Fielder.
And, and of course, Nelson Bay scored. Now Nelson Bay were up by 2 points, and thankfully they were unstoppable in the second half. And they were leading so badly. Now they were leading 13-0. Now was up 15 to 10. Now was up 15 to 10. And of course, University tried to do everything.
Hands in the rack. Mouth's open.
But with a penalty, Lakes had to quickly take the... But with a penalty, University of Newcastle took the points, 13. Nelson Bay secured a well-known match win, 20 to 13. Now it was 22 points to 13. As University of Newcastle tried to have a well-known match win, it was just all too late.
And the crowd goes absolutely ballistic here at the Dome, Terry, in the closing stages.
As Nelson Bay secured one of the best wins of all. Then it was time for Maitland to stop the Hamilton Hawks from winning another game of the Hunter Rugby Union competition. And because of that, it was suddenly one thing that they had to do. And of course, Maitland were of course treating the Hamilton Hawks like flies. As Maitland were given the points, they led 3-0. They tackled Hamilton a lot right throughout the game and defended one of the best lines of all. Hamilton fought back 3-3. But Maitland scored one of the best tries of all. Thankfully, no knock-on for Maitland though. 10-3 for Maitland. And of course, Hamilton was trying to do everything. Hamilton scored later. They were also up with the points in the second half. And of course, Hamilton and Maitland were all up to 10-all. And of course, there was a massive knock-on from Maitland. Maitland had to do the free. 13-10. And of course, Hamilton were going very bad. As Maitland were on their good side now. As Maitland secured a massive win. Maitland were now leading 20 points to 10. And also were taking over Hamilton's winning run. And of course, marvellous news came from the for Maitland, who were just too good for their rivals. Now Maitland was leading 27 to 10. By the time Hamilton tried to secure a comeback, it was all too late. Hamilton was on 15 points. By the time Hamilton tried to quickly make a comeback, it just wasn't good enough for the home side to secure a win, with Maitland securing a 27-22 win. With Maitland securing one of the best victories, ending Hamilton's undefeated running. With Maitland ending Hamilton's undefeated winning run. Now to the AFL Hunter Central Coast men's competition, and of course the match between Maitland and Newcastle City was called off because of the weather. But thankfully, the match between Warners Bay and Singleton went through, as Warners Bay defeated Singleton 104-8, while Kalani Vale absolutely blew Telgor Avoca away with a 62-48 victory. To the women's AFL Hunter Central Coast, and of course Cardiff secured a 87-1 win over Wyong Lakes, while Singleton were too strong for Warners Bay. And of course, the match between Maitland and Newcastle City was called off because of the wet weather. And also, Telgor Avoca were beaten by Kalani Vale. After the break, the Newcastle Falcons and the Maitland Mustangs men secure huge wins in the NBL 1 East competition. Finally, to the NBL 1 East, and the Newcastle Falcons and the Maitland Mustangs have both secured huge wins in the men's competition. Both teams defeated the Illawarra Hawks and the Sutherland Sharks on Saturday. It was a game that the Falcons had to win. They had to go up to the south coast town of Wollongong to beat the hometown, the Illawarra Hawks. And of course, Newcastle just had to do something. They led 14-9. While leading, the Newcastle Falcons led 22-12 against the Illawarra Hawks. Then the Hawks struck back, but not for long, as the Falcons continued their unbeaten side, and also their unbeaten run. The Falcons were, of course, on 31. But thankfully, the Falcons were on 33. Then Newcastle suddenly had a fight back.
Fakes left, goes right, lays it in and one. Beastie with the rebound.
Newcastle, of course, came back right throughout a few minutes later in the third half. They came back with 66 points in the fourth and final quarter. 69 all is what officially came up.
Oh, wow. Wasn't tied for long. Beastie with it.
74-72 is what came up. Then the two teams had 83 all.
Oh, McDonald with a tip in. 85-83. He's going one-on-one against McDonald.
Then Newcastle certainly had to do the right thing, securing the match winner 86 to 85.
Lancaster to inbound. Lots of movement underneath to Walker.
Oh, he misses it.
He's blocked. The game is over. Walker blocked at the buzzer under the basket.
Pass comes away, picked off though in the middle of the court.
But meanwhile, the Maitland Mustangs headed down to Sydney where they faced the Sutherland Sharks. With Maitland in the lead 21 to 17, it was huge for the Mustangs, who are now leading 23-17. Now, Maitland were leading by 3 points.
Woodhill for the open three and sinks it. 28 apiece here.
Maitland were now on 34 points, and of course had to do something to Sutherland. Maitland led by 2, and of course secured a huge back-to-back goal-scoring lead. 41-37 for Maitland, which is massive.
And Milburn, who certainly knows how to score for the Maitland side, comes up with a loose ball. Under pressure from Milburn.
With Maitland leading 46 to 40, it was just huge for the Maitland Mustangs right up in Sydney. But Sutherland weren't, of course, giving up.
Nice move from Cabrera, gets the ball. Back to Turner. Turner trying to get the better of Bates.
Thankfully, Maitland were not giving up.
Then fires up from a long range three, nothing but net from Watson.
Maitland led 49 to 45.
Little jumper and gets the ball. So all of a sudden,
51 to 45 now. And of course, that later turned into 55 to 52.
Milburn for three. This could be a big one. It is. Maitland out by 6. 58 plays 52.
It was massive for Maitland, who are now leading 62 to 55. Maitland were leading the Sutherland.
Now by Milburn.
And of course, Maitland were now having a good time, leading 64 to 58.
Back out to Chris. Almost travelled. Fires up and gets the ball. 8-point game.
Now 66 to 58.
Cabrera. Kicks it out. Gerlach.
Came above for Maitland.
Gerlach gets the basket. 66 plays 62. 05 left to play.
71 to 62 for Maitland. And of course, Maitland, held off their opponents to secure a huge win.
With a terrific victory. Beats the Sharks.
71 to 64. And that's it for now. Don't forget, for more of us here. See you then.